There you go.
Cool. Please, if anyone out there knows an audio engineer, hit me up because we need sound. So yes, we call it singer-songwriter around here because we try to book projects that have this sort of vibe to it early on in the curriculum. But that doesn't necessarily limit this kind of recording to something that is basic or beginner. In fact, this kind of recording can lend itself to be one of the more challenging and one of the more sort of nuanced recordings you can make. So we're going to try to focus on that a little bit tonight. Maybe put our mind to some slightly more advanced concepts in singer-songwriter tracking. We will definitely also cover the basics. So if this is one of your first seminars that you're attending or watching online, and you are getting ready to record a session like this, you might want to use some of the techniques that we'll cover towards the end, which would be the more basic sort of getting started techniques. So I want to cover a few things tonight. I want to cover some singer and guitar going on at the same time kind of scenario, which gives us the opportunity to create sort of a unified feel, unified sound between the two. It's the way most singer-songwriters are used to performing their compositions. And I found that in a lot of cases, although the multi-track version would be maybe a superior mix, maybe easier to work with in post-production, by far the most valuable currency in all of this is the connection between singer content and then eventually the consumer, which sometimes you just kind of need to do it all at once. Yeah, Nirvana Unplugged, check it out. So Hunter has graciously agreed to play guitar for us tonight and sing. Hi, Hunter.
Thanks, Hunter.
Thanks, Hunter.
You're welcome.
Oh.
Whoa, that was weird.
Whoa.
Dude. Okay. So, with no further ado, let's jump right in. Basically, what I want to do is cover a few sort of more advanced, exotic microphone techniques and recording techniques, and then again at the end of the seminar, we'll spend about the last 15-20 minutes doing the cookie cutter, just do it this way and set it up when you're just getting started. So let's go and take a look at the microphones we have set up.
Can you open the door?
Hi, Hunter.
How's it going?
Super good. So for you guys at home, the setup we're using today is two U87 microphones, no roll off, no pad, both in figure 8. Both in figure 8. The reason for that is that the figure 8 is the most rejective of the polar patterns, just because of the architecture and math that creates the figure 8. Well, really all other polar patterns are created from the figure 8 pattern. They all kind of start this way. The figure 8 has superior rejection in its off-axis point, which in this case is going to be here, maybe to the sides too, depending on the surrounding environment. But in general, when I'm using the figure 8s for this kind of application, what I'm trying to do is use the front address to capture the thing I'm trying to capture, in this case the vocal, and then basically point the top of the mic at the thing I don't want to capture. So in this case, guitar. Sort of the same thing over here. We're focused on the guitar, trying to point up as much as we can at Hunter's face, so as to reject that face. The goal here is to give us a cohesive performance, a one-time and done recording. but enough isolation that we can really still get away with heavy compression, still get away with heavy EQ in the box. Cool. So let's also run through the second thing we're going to do tonight, which is the mid-side miking configuration. In this case, I've got this ready to go. This is a Royer SF24. This is 2 ribbon microphones, kind of like 101s, stacked on top of each other in a Bloomline configuration. So do you know what a Bloomline configuration is? Wrong. Bloomline is 2 figure 8s stacked on top of each other, oriented perpendicularly. The advantage of this kind of a polar pattern is that it gets completely almost completely phase coherent stereo image, 360 capture, much like an Omni microphone would, but you still have some directionality when you get close. So in this case, I've pointed the top ribbon. Would you get in playing position again? Thank you. So I've pointed the top ribbon to be our mid microphone. That's going to be pointed directly at the source that I'm trying to capture, in this case the guitar. And then the bottom, which is perpendicular, is the side microphone. So that's going to capture the ambience, or more ambience, the left to right dimensions of the guitar, and the off axis. Anything that's off axis for the mid mic will be on axis for the sides. We're then going to send that into Pro Tools, where we'll use a mid-side matrix to decode the mid-side, giving us stereo image that we can manipulate in the strangest of ways. If you are new to the concept of mid-side, I encourage you to dive into it. It really is a fundamental understanding in audio to start relating your stereo image to sum and difference in a way that is practical. Now, understanding the entire decoding matrix is definitely enough to spin your head around in circles. Track me down, sit me down, we'll go through it. What I recommend is look for 3 or 4 different explanations. And with YouTube, it's pretty kick-ass. Go find my video on it, go find somebody else's, go find 3 or 4, and chances are some little piece of each one is gonna sink in, and you'll get this thing figured out. So we're not gonna go too far into depth with that tonight, but we will be showing you how to work with the mid-side miking. Cool, so you've got headphones, you're good to go? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Anything to add? Guys? Add is bad, that's right. Add is bad. All right, let's shut this down and head into the control room.
You're flipping phase.
I'm flipping. Flipping the phase.
Once I looked at your thing, now I know why you had it up. How you had that set up. If you lap 3 is going the same thing.
Mm-hmm. We all good, Waterboy? Awesome. All right, so in Pro Tools, I have the tracks all set up here. We have the first example, which will be the 287s. And let's do one at a time. Hunter, if you would, play guitar for me, please. Hey, Hunter.
What's up?
Will you play some guitar?
Yeah.
So with this, we're using the TubeTech MP1A microphone preamp. We're using it with the 40 hertz roll off. We're not using the pad, so we're not pushing the tube very hard. Phantom power's on. And that's about all there is to say on this on this preamp. I do love the sound that we're getting out of this Tube Tech. However, I would really like to roll off the low end. And since I don't want to patch through an EQ right now, I'm just going to go ahead and roll that off here. Why not this guy? Your low end roll off can be a really big deal on an acoustic guitar in this setting. In this particular setting, there is no question what instrument carries the low end. There's no question where your 40, 50, 60 hertz is coming from. That's it. So dialing that in to the extent that you know, first of all, that you have low end if you want it. This particular plugin, I find that the magic is working both the boost, which is killer, against the roll-off, and then within the roll-off, deciding on the frequency and the slope, and playing that off of the resonant curve. So to the left or to the right on this Q knob, I have basically a flatter and more even filter, and to the right I have a stronger resonant curve. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, so if this is my high cut, to the left we're looking more like this, graded and gradual. To the right we're looking more like this. So this is what we'd call that resonant curve. And usually it's a little more subtle. What this tends to do is create a focus around this area. So it's a great way of defining the bottom, defining the top. And that's what I'm doing over here with this most excellent pass filter. We can hear it warming up. That's the very lowest of the subtones we're going to get out of this guitar. Then over here, let's bring this guy back in. So that woof is definitely not something we want to exaggerate. Put this after my earth plugin. We really need to avoid that woof. Play that, yeah, just keep chugging that chord for me, would you, Hunter? So what I might do is hunt this in Pro Q. Stands to reason that 80 hertz range is the first fundamentals, the lowest fundamentals on the 6-string guitar. We just need to reduce that area and maybe even compress it later on. The biggest problem with that area right now that I'm hearing, and this is true for a lot of acoustic guitar recordings, is that the resonant note in that octave just hangs out too long. Compared to the other notes further up the harmonic spectrum, it kind of goes and it steps all over the rhythm of the song, whereas something more like this or even up here, these are speaking the rhythm a lot more clearly. As always, level matching as I go, trying to stay around -15. That's tough on this tube tech. You kind of have 20 dB in either direction. I didn't really want to push it up here. Nope. That's too many. Cool. All right, so that is sort of proof of concept. Thanks, Hunter. That is sort of proof of concept on the guitar. I'm comfortable moving on with that. Now let's check that vocal mic.
Hello.
Hello. Sing the song, please.
Okay. Do you want me to play with?
Yeah,
Guitar? Okay.
total.
A heart that's full of like a landfill, a job that slowly kills you, bruises that won't heal. I'll take a quiet life, a handshake, carbon monoxide with no alarms and no surprises, no alarms and no surprises, no alarms and no surprises, please.
All right, thanks, Hunter. Now let's bring both of these in together. Vocals are sounding good through the Vox box. I'm using a roll off at 80. Again, mostly for the guitar's benefit and also to prevent proximity. Running my input pretty hard into the Vox box. It's kind of my default position with this preamp. Compressing at 3:1 with a medium fast attack and a medium fast release, just kind of riding that average level. He's nice and consistent coming in, which is actually pretty rare for a singer-songwriter. But which means I can use this compressor to ride that average level to give me that sort of smooth optical action that we all really like. And then the de-esser just touching 3K, just tapping it down a little bit. With my EQ, I'm boosting at 100 to give it that body. I'm dipping at 1.5. Now, to me, this is actually a great example if you want to back up the tape. This frequency, 1.5-ish, was a nightmare when we pulled this mic up. It's a confluence of his voice, plus the microphone, plus the room, all added up to way too much 1.5. It was kind of telephony. You want to sing a little bit?
Yeah, sure. With no alarms and no surprises, no alarms and no...
Is without that mid dip, but the mid dip on this Pultec is actually kind of a beast. It's killing it. So I'm going to bring that in, and that pretty much draws that right in line, except that it's going to make it sound just a little dull. Not to worry. Pultec EQ on top. We're doing 9 dB at 8K, 9 dB at 8K. Go ahead, Hunter.
No alarms and no surprises, no alarms and no surprises, no alarms and no surprises, please.
All right, so now we need to check our phase. Play guitar, please. And now just Hunter, just sing or speak at me.
No alarms and no surprises. No alarms and no surprises.
Right, so we don't want any surprises. I'm checking phase at the guitar and checking phase also at the vocal. If we did have a phase issue at one and not the other, then we would definitely be moving these microphones. As it is, I'm gonna go and make a quick adjustment. I'm definitely hearing a little more guitar mid-range in the vocal mic than I like, and my guitar is a little bit on the bright side. So let's go make a quick adjustment.
That warrior fell a little bit.
Would appear so. That's going to be a problem. Would appear that you have moved just a touch. All right. All right, let's check that out.
With no alarms and no surprises. No alarms, no.
Thank you all. So the goal of making that adjustment was to warm up the guitar sound a little bit by turning that figure eights on axis front address more towards the sound hole in the guitar, more towards the bridge. This is where the resonant low end likes to hang out.
No alarms and no
Cool. So I'm hearing that my balance of string noise to resonant fullness is a little more like what I was hoping for now. And let's add that vocal mic. Keep going, Hunter. You sound great. Cool. So, Hunter, will you play and sing for me?
Yes, sir.
alarms and no surprises. No alarms and no surprises. No alarms. Surprises, please. I'll take a quiet life handshake.
Stop at any point you want and start back at the top of the phrase if you want, Hunter. I know I'm asking you to just repeat the same thing over and over again. So what we're doing is we're trying to experiment with the blend of acoustic guitar and vocal by using the figure eight. We're getting pretty good rejection. Go for it.
were meant. They don't speak for us.
All right, so we have actually a fairly uncommon issue in this particular recording session. Normally the big challenge here is a loud, boisterous vocal without good isolation between the guitar mic and the vocal mic. And in general, the vocal is going to bleed all over the guitar track. Of course, bleed is always two ways. But in this case, Hunter is actually pretty well balanced with the guitar. And the vocal, if anything, is having trouble cutting through the wall of guitar sound here. And the thing to really point out is that the issue is happening in the air in the room.
Do you want me to sing louder?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there, Hunter. Point being that it's not something I'm doing here on the gear. It's not something in the mic choice, although those play a role in how that's presenting here at the speakers. The issue actually exists in the relative signal level of guitar and vocal, which is he's singing this level, he's playing guitar this level. It's very, very easy when we're working in the studio to skip our thinking ahead to at least the next stage, where we're wondering about the things we have already done, the things we can do, the buttons we can press. When in reality, making these kinds of musical arrangement adjustments and performance adjustments are by far your most powerful tool. So yes, Hunter, would you play a little softer? What kind of pick are you using?
The one you gave me.
Oh, well, that's your first mistake. So if you have a felt, use it. If not, try your hand.
Okay.
I'll take a quiet life, a handshake of carbon monoxide with no alarms and no surprises, no alarms.
So that is a little better. Now what I'm hearing is that maybe we've drifted back towards the sound hole a little bit too much. Hunter, are you rotating maybe a little bit?
Maybe a little bit.
My monitor is out in here right now, otherwise I would bust you on that. So what I want to avoid is the sound hole pointing directly into the front address of that U87. Interestingly enough, this might be a good candidate for ditching the figure 8 and just putting one or both of these mics into cardioid. Having a little more overlap might be nice, and that would give us a little bit less focus on those front address on-axis positions. So go ahead and play and sing.
No alarms, no surprises, no alarms, no surprises, no alarms, no surprises, please. With no alarms and no.
So we're definitely making progress. What I'm doing is referring back to the first couple of rounds of sound check we were doing. Now, when you're working with this kind of a mic, I'm sorry, I was experimenting maybe with bringing in the ribbon as a room. When you're working with this kind of a miking setup, sound check is everything. If it doesn't sound good before you start rolling those performance takes, these scenarios where the microphones are bleeding into each other and tied together by that common thread of phase and performance, it's going to be really tough to unravel this later to fix anything. You're not going to be able to edit with anywhere near the freedom you would be able to edit if both tracks weren't bleeding into each other. This kind of a scenario really relies on the performer to be in their element, really relies on the performance to be compelling above production. So we still have a lot of boom, and I can't think of a better thing to do than to make another mic adjustment. This one should be real quick. You guys can hang here. Play for me. Let's go back to the pick.
There we go. Where did I set it?
I set mine down in the other room.
Oh no.
Would someone grab the pick from the desk and bring it in, please?
Oh, there it is. I found it. We'll sit on
All right. So what we want to avoid is, yeah, that's the guy. I'm going to pull the guitar mic back just a little bit.
Yeah, it's pointed right at the sound hole too.
Mm-hmm. Let's give this a shot. Let's try switching the preamp as well now that we're hearing this sound. I'm going to kill my feed, I'm going to kill phantom, and let's try a solid state. Something Neve-ish, I think. We're going to go with the Amec 9098. And I'm going to patch right into that guy. Just a little more strummy. Hunter, just a little more strumming?
Oh, sorry.
So this hopefully is a good demonstration of the rejective qualities of the U87 in figure 8. You know, having come to the long drawn out conclusion that I don't love that mic on that guitar, let's try a different microphone. So change-ups you could make here would be changing out either microphone for another figure 8 if you had one. We don't. Or changing one or more of the mics either in polar pattern or to a different mic with a different polar pattern. In this case, I might try, well, let's do this. Let's move on and do the mid-side example. I could fiddle around with that all day. It should be noted that this particular performance, being Hunter playing Radiohead, is not something, this is not a performance or a performer that I think would be particularly well suited to the both tracks at the same time. Just to be fully transparent. All right, so Hunter, would you play some guitar for me now? Move one of these into the Focusrite. While I do, let me kind of explain the goal here. The goal is to, oh, will you kill Phantom over there? Thanks. The goal is to use the top ribbon microphone to capture the direct on-axis pointed focused guitar sound. Then we're going to use the perpendicular other half of the Bloom line to capture a more angular, more ambient, more side to side, more off axis from the perspective of the guitar signal. And then when we blend these two signals together in the box, we're using a mid-side decoding technique whereby we're going to double the side microphone. So this is the off-axis ribbon. And what we've done is we've duplicated the track. So it's mono as our figure 8 mics, as our ribbon mics. But it's been duplicated. One duplicate has been panned left, one's been panned right. And the right side has been phase flipped. Now it doesn't matter which side you phase flip, could be left, could be right, as long as one of your side microphones is phase flipped. You're going to be able to reassemble this mid-side thing. So what's really happening here? We are bringing together sort of the side-facing ambient structure of this particular recording. And then by blending two versions of itself with itself and phase flipping one side, we cancel the things that are the most the same on each side of the mic. The things that are the most the same on each side of the mic are the things right in front of the mic, because they're even on the left side and the right side. So this phase flip matrix allows us to use phase cancellation to remove those things that the on-axis microphone brings into the recording. So let's try dialing in just this mid microphone. Play a little for me, Hunter.
Ask you something about the I/O and the mic that you have set up there, because the upper is the one that's pointed at the mic, correct? And then the lower one out there is the ones that's like parallel with the ones the sides, right? So I'm just
so upper and lower, I forget because I think we're upside down. First of all, keep playing guitar, please. Oh, all right. Yeah. The upper and lower get a little bit confused. Which one is in which input?
It says the low's in 3 and the up is in 4, and I thought 4 was the up, which is looking right at it, and then the 3s are actually the side ones. But is that how you want it? I'm just making sure I fully understand.
Sort of, yes. So let me just make sure that is going to the right output. 3 and 4. You killed my level. Cool. Yeah, we will probably go out there and make a couple different adjustments so you can see how the mid side plays out in the.
The mid side isn't even in front of me.
The Royer isn't even in front of you?
Yeah.
All right, let me go fix that. I'm flying blind, Hunter. My monitor's out. So let's just do this.
Just so I'm understanding,
Yeah.
is this not where you're getting the sides from? Is the below down here?
That is absolutely
Okay.
where we're getting the sides from. Cool. So do we have a shot of that? Do we have a live room shot? Oh, perfect. Yes, okay. So now what we have is the top, which is in 4.
Top is in
4. Okay. So 4 is going to feed. Go. All right, so this is our on-axis microphone. So this microphone has a much kinder transient response and frequency response, I think, for this particular guitar. So this is a lot more like where I would want to be living if tracking this guitar. Cool. Let's try a little EQ, try a little parametric here. Cool, that should be. All right, play your Radiohead. Cool, now I'm gonna check my side mics. Really just one to begin with. So with this, I'm going to start by basically dialing in the same settings as the mid mic, just as a starting place, and then tweaking a little from there. These two mics, let's do this. Let's remind ourselves what this sounds like. And then what this sounds like. Awesome. So now, let's take this from the top. Mid to give us a center. Okay, yeah. Where are ya? Nope, not that guy. So I'm working the 50 hertz shelf and also my pass filter. Try to get that low end dialed in just like I like it. Now what I'm going to do is bring in these side microphones and you'll hear the stereo image emerge. So let's just remind ourselves what these sound like individually. That's what this sounds like by itself. That's what this sounds like. Bring them together. mid-side microphones can be used in the mix to control your width. You might have say a verse section that was a little bit more centered or panned off. And then you can bring in that width for a little bit of dramatic impact. You can also use your mids and your sides as points of processing. So the more you process either the mid or the side, the more different they become and the less the phase cancellation yields a return to a cohesive image, but it can give you some really cool effects. So now let's try one jostling of that ribbon mic, and let's try a mismatch in mid-side. So let's head on into the live room.
It's funny where you use it where you're having like one guitar part that you think you're probably not double tracking it to make it bigger, like a rhythm or something that's going in there like that. Is that?
Yep, something like that. The question is, why would I decide to use mid-side mic technique? What sort of circumstances would lead me to start there? And yeah, okay, cool. Really, the answer is that there are some sources, some guitars, some whatever, some sound events in the world that for some reason you just think are gonna sound cool a certain way. There's sort of the big and more important answer, which is that I can imagine what mid-side sounds like on pretty much any source. And it's one of the things that my mind will sort of scan over as we decide what to start with. Ben brought up the situation of a mono track that you don't have an opportunity to double or otherwise affect, for which you want some stereo image. So yes, for live recordings, live engineers will use mid-side miking quite a bit to create that effect. So you have one like mono rhythm guitar part. Let's see. One mono rhythm guitar that you can pan or that you can set up with mid-side in order to get a wider stereo image and some control out of your stereo image. In general, I tend to use mid-side more in the scenario where I have one thing or a small number of things in my mix, and the focal point wants to be stereo but still kind of mono, something like a piano. Mid-side can actually be a really cool technique to use on a vocal. The SF24, by the way, is actually a really interesting vocal mic if none of you guys have tried this out. In general, any Bloom line will be interesting in this way, but the SF24 in particular, sorry to walk all over the place, Waterboy. Keeping you on your toes. The SF24 being that it stays phase coherent and generally has even matched frequency response across the two microphones, really make it feel more like an Omni mic when you use it for vocals. But if you say have a vocalist that can't sit still, you know, they tend to be moving around to the left and the right of the microphone. Yeah, just ranging. Singers love to do this, the Axl Rose. And in that scenario, having a Bloom line can give you that directionality, that on-axis capture, as well as giving you the side-to-side pickup. But in that scenario, you would want to both of those microphones into mono.
Is there any danger in recording vocals in a ribbon because of like plosives and air and stuff going through there? But
Danger, okay, well first of all, the greatest danger is that you're gonna break the very important ribbon mic, which is bad. It is bad, it's an expensive microphone, but that said, it's not the end of the world. And no, I don't think, I mean, maybe if we really, like birthday style, tried to blow out the microphone, it might actually work. I've never tested it. Why don't you try it out sometime and let me know how it goes. But I've used a lot of, in particular, Royers are very durable ribbons. Royers tend to be used a lot in the rock, pop. They're workhorse microphones. So if they really were so delicate that you just couldn't put them in front of a vocalist or couldn't put them in front of a guitar amp, they wouldn't be a thing. You know, they would all have long since been blown. The thing you want to really avoid is transient SPL, transient sound pressure levels with a ribbon. Something like a snare drum, that'd pop it real good.
Or kick drum.
Or a kick drum. Yeah. Or a timpani. I thought we were just listing drums now. Okay, so I'm gonna try to go to the other end of the spectrum and use two very different mics in a configuration, in an orientation that isn't your standard left-right perpendicular. Mid-side, sum and difference, is a quality of stereo image that ignores actual geometric positioning. So the leftness, the fact that this is the left and this is the right, or vice versa, means nothing at all to this microphone and nothing at all to my decoding. So what matters is that this side of my figure eight and this side of my figure eight are different from each other. And that the things that are the most similar in those two figure eight capsules, or two sides of the figure eight capsule, are basically the same things that are being recorded by this microphone. So for that reason, they don't have to be the same mic. The more similar the mics are, the more that coherent mid-side scenario is going to play out. But the left-right thing, no need for that, as we're going to demonstrate right here. Now we might decide after recording that we do want that sort of lateral sides on this guitar. I don't think so. And let's do that, and then I'm going to put this guy. While we're doing advanced guitar miking, let's try this guy as well. So this is another one I've had good success with in a singer-songwriter kind of situation. This works well for drummers. This works well for guitarists, percussionists, basically anybody who's playing well. Put a microphone right next to their ear. So in this case, it's going to sound like garbage. But the idea is performers, this is how performers hear. This is what he's hearing. If he's playing well, if he's happy with his performance, then this microphone should be in a good place to hear something good. This is particularly germane with drums, acoustic guitar, instruments that are played acoustically and practiced acoustically. This is the way hunters used to playing this song. Hopefully this mic will pick up what Hunter usually hears. The hunt.
Are you changing any color patterns or anything on that?
Yes, so I'm changing this 87 into cardioid, and this one is staying figure eight. All right, let's try that out.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Sure, yes. Sure, man, let's fucking go for it.
The last time I tried one of those mics in a session, all I had was click, click, click the whole time. And
ear.
Which one?
Like when I did like a mic over the ear on an acoustic guy.
Oh, yeah?
It was just the, like there's.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much, like, that I couldn't even use it.
Yeah, you do have to be careful of that headphone feed. Ben mentions that sometimes when you use that over-the-shoulder microphone, what you end up catching is the bleed from their cans, which is usually going to be a lot worse if they're one ear. So if the ear that's near the microphone is off and that can is just flapping in the breeze, it's a nightmare. Next time you have a pair of cans that breaks, where one side is shorted, keep it. Those are awesome. You want to have headphones that have one side working and not the other.
Yeah, that'd be really good for that.
Yeah, you want to definitely keep a pair of those around. All right, so the mid is our new mic. And that's going to come in the Lav 5. And let's see. What do we want to do? It's Live Room 5. Patch cable. So this mic is a small diaphragm condenser. It's a C480B. In this case, we're using it in cardioid, standard cardioid. We decided not to go hyper today. Use this guy. Good. And play for me. I wonder if I did that right. Oh no, that's right. 5 is blown.
Yeah, I think we're at 6.
Yeah. Tonight, the part of 5 will be played by 6. Yep. So those, thanks Hunter, those C480s, I love them for film work, for Foley, for sound effect capture, that kind of thing, especially in hyper. For music, I rarely find a thing that I feel they flatter. This seems to be working out pretty well. So we've got this C480 on the 12th fret, and it is just failing in all the right ways. So that's good. I'm actually pushing the Vintech a little bit, so this sort of Neve 1073 coloration, we're getting that here on the front end, which again, the C480 is a nice transient articulate microphone, so hitting it harder on the preamp is a nice sort of duality. So let's go ahead and check that 87. Wonder which one I have. Play for me, please. With our monitor out, we can't see which of these 87s is which, and so we should have to play the perspective game. All right, so the options are either the over-the-shoulder mic or the figure 8 out in front of the sound hole. This one, and then this is our other example. I'm thinking this one is in front. This is getting smashed, isn't it? That's nice. All right, so Hunter, thank you. Will you hold up a sec? So everyone who thinks this is the over-the-shoulder mic.
Well, the one that you were just buying?
Yeah. Everyone who thinks it's out front, figure 8. Cool. Hunter, will you tap the figure 8 in front of you? Not the one by your head, but in front of you.
I'm tapping it.
Oh!
You're wrong.
We all got beaten by the unknown. That was fun. We should do that more often. All right, so this is my figure 8. Great, because it sounds much better. Let's see. So this is going to combine with this. I want to make sure my phase is good. Ready to come in over here? Yeah. Good. So those two microphones are at least relatively phase coherent. And now we will double this. Phase flip one side. Pan them out. Bring it, Hunter. That's a great example of how we can sort of blend the sides into taste. This session will be here. You guys can experiment with it to your little heart's content. Okay, so we've covered some advanced miking scenarios, lots of different options. Interestingly enough, I don't feel like we found one that really flatters this guitar. If I had to guess, I would say what I would really like here is a single CM7, probably about 2 or 3 feet in front of it. Just find that nice patch of air. Even that could be the whole recording. That could be vocal, that could be guitar, it could be the whole thing captured in one microphone. I think that perfectly in phase mono cardioid mic is probably the way to go with this guy. So with the few minutes we have left, I want to show you a really basic intro acoustic guitar miking scenario. From here on out, this is what you should do when you're miking guitar in your first singer-songwriter session. So let's go on into Live Room.
Great job, really good job. Well done, man.
What's up?
Yeah, great job, good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Good stuff there.
Water boy, come hither. So, for getting started, what you should do is get out a set of matching condenser microphones. Those could be KM84s, they could be TLM 103s, they could be 87s. We're going to use 87s because we've got 87s in front of us. You want them in cardioid. And again, I suggest you start by using a pair of the same microphones. That certainly isn't a given for me. In these setups, I often like to mix and match different kinds of microphones. You guys have seen that. Often I like to mix and match dynamic mics, ribbon mics, and condenser mics on these kinds of acoustic sources. But for getting started, what you need to be doing is training your ear not only to hear how to make a great singer-songwriter recording and production, but also what the gear sounds like. So one of the things we're trying to learn as we set up for this guitar is what these Neumann U87s sound like. So by keeping them paired, you're removing a variable. And so what you'll know is that when you listen back to this guitar recording, you're hearing the sound of the 87 and not the 87 blended with whatever else you put in there. Again, you could have chosen KM84s, you could have chosen C480Bs, 103s. Without hearing the source, there's no way to make an informed decision about which of those mics you would want. So really, if you're going into a session and you haven't heard the guitar and you're not standing in front of it, just like really, it doesn't matter. Go grab whatever the first thing is in the mic locker. There are no bad condenser mics in there. You can't possibly screw this up. Cool. So you're gonna point one condenser mic from about 18 inches away at the bridge of the guitar, taking care not to point the on-axis front address at the sound hole. Right. Then you're gonna take the other microphone 18 inches away. You can measure it if you want. I have perfect precision and accuracy certified by the atomic clock to be just brutal. So this one, always, 18 inches off, pointed directly at the 12th fret. Again, trying not to specifically point at the sound hole. Good. So now, you want to set up your headphones. You can see other seminars and other videos on how to set up the headphone box. You want to make sure your artist is comfortable here in the booth or the live room, wherever you're at. Have him play, or her, play into the microphones and make sure that they're not swiveling. So just to point out, if this is me, I might start with a configuration like this. And what I really want to do is get my head down here and hear where the air sounds the best. This guitar tends to really give you compartments when you get close. You know, really this part of the guitar, they're very distinct. So really, I'm hearing that about back here, we get that tip of the flame convergence of the nuances of the guitar. So this is where I would put God, so weird. A single microphone. If this is your first session, don't imitate me in what I'm doing right now. You're just getting out that pair of condensers and setting them up at the bridge and the neck of the guitar. If this is your second, third go around and you're already pretty comfortable with the, oh yeah, with a stereo condenser setup, then I suggest you get your head down here, get your ears in front of your source, find a patch of air that sounds amazing, or at least usable, and put a mic there. Cool. Spoiler alert, what you're likely to find in a lot of cases is that the place where you hear the nice patch of air is very often a little further from the source than you might have imagined. All right, so now let's go dial this in.
Nope.
All right, so being that this proper inputs to get signal from your two microphones. And go ahead and plug the lead from those microphones, kill Phantom over there please, into Vintech 1 and Vintech 2. Unless there's somebody around telling you that one or the other of those is out of commission at this moment. Those Vintechs, those Neve style 1073 clones, are your best friend. They will literally never sound bad on anything for any reason. They're very difficult to distort. They're very forgiving. As long as you just keep your recording level at a reasonable input, you should have no problem with Vintech. So we're keeping it simple. I'm patching because I have a whole bunch of stuff set up that requires me to patch or unpatch, as the case may be. You should not need any patch cables. You should be plugged into Vintech 1 and 2 out in the snake and normaled right into your preamp. I'm going to turn on Phantom Power for Vintech 1 and 2, and Ben's going to set my inputs to Lav 1 and 2. I think I'm good, okay. Whenever you're ready, Hunter, go ahead and start strummy.
Sorry. It's tuning.
Strum boy.
No!
Let him tune.
All right, so you want to start with your output gain all the way up, input gain all the way down. Bring that input gain up until we're seeing about -15 on the fader or on the Pro Tools meter. Now, of course, this is a dynamic signal, so you won't be able to pick exactly 15, but you want those peaks hitting right around there. And now I'm going to bring my output gain down to compensate as I turn my input gain up and get more of that lovely preamp tone that I am rather enjoying at this moment. Cool, let's go to second microphone. Oh. Hang on. Hang on. Okay. Boy, I really thought that was gonna work. So live room 2 is, yeah, that should be my second 87. From 2 into Vintech 2. Those coming out into Lavery 1, 2. Let me just, oh, there it is.
I think that one.
Sounds about right. All right, so I'm going to bring both of these microphones in together. Now that I've gotten my input level, center both signals, reset using output gain to get an input level of -15, and now I'm going to check my phase. So with them panned middle and even level, I'm going to flip phase. This is what you should be hearing. You should have good phase, and when you flip it should get very bad. Thanks, Hunter. Pause for a sec. So the way to try to manage your phase correlation in using this mic setup is to have perfect laser beam accuracy when you eyeball that 18 inches away from the instrument. Obviously, that's impossible. The instrument itself is a weird shape. 18 inches from what? Like the sound's coming from all over the place. It's not a real thing. But what we're trying to do is use distance and the speed of sound to create the same cycles of compression and rarefaction in the bridge mic as it does in the neck mic. If we're off, we'll hear it here in our phase check, and we just move our mic. All right, so let's pan those hard left and right. Let's label those tracks, and Ben's going to show you how to just be totally pro with this. Labeling and grouping, great.
I'm not sure which one you did neck and bridge or which one's which, but oh well.
So yeah, that's fine. Bridge is, yep, that's exactly it. Cool, we're panning them out. Go ahead and play a little, Hunter. Nice wide stereo image. That guitar is going to be big and bad. What'd you say?
The neck of the bridge on that Vintech 2.
Vintech 2 is the bridge. Huh?
Low input gain on that bridge.
Yes. Yeah, so that's a good note, Hunter, just a sec. On the neck, a lot of the time I like to drive the preamp to kind of squash up some of those transients to keep that string noise from being overpowering, from being too raky and annoying. And then on the bridge, very often it's the opposite. I'm using low input gain, high output gain to give me nice, even response in those low tones. Those low tones can very easily get flattened and smushed away. So generally speaking, I end up somewhere like that. A good note. Good, so now you've got your guitar set up. Now I get to try my last microphone of the night, which is gonna be, let's see, what should we use? Let's go Wonder. Yeah. Just give me a channel on Lavery 1.
Is there something you want me to call this? Like just
It's a CM7.
call it that.
Hunter. Hunter.
Hello.
Yeah, that's happening again. So, are we playing back or recording?
I mean, his 87 is still picking up stuff, so.
Okay, good. Oh, his 87 is, all right. So let me go make sure I plugged into the one I thought I plugged into. Yep. The Wonder CM7 has its own power box, located somewhere with the microphone, connected to its lead, which needs to be flipped on in order to get signal. So now that we have that on, Wonder A, we are in 8. Done. So that's that kind of even frequency response that I'd be looking for from that tip of the flame ear generated position. Go ahead and play our strummy. Fantastic, Hunter. Actually, those three mics sound pretty damn good together. You have a left, you have a right, you have a sort of even capture from the CM7. All right, thanks for hanging in there, guys. This was a rather long one. I'm gonna try as much as I can to build in advanced style content into these beginning seminars. Next week, we're gonna be doing the continuation of our drum seminar that we started last week. So drums next week, and then hip hop vocals the week after that. So this will conclude the live feed. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jet Jaguar, Recording Conservatory of Austin. Everybody else here, thanks.